Hey everybody, Dave here from Dave Tries to Fix Stuff, the channel dedicated to the repair, restoration, and resurrection of broken stuff. And in this episode, I'm going to take this old acoustic guitar and see if I can get it into good, playable condition again. Want to see if I can do it? Stick around, we'll find out together. So before we get into the video, I just want to take a second to ask you to please click subscribe below. I'm trying to grow my viewership right now. I'm up to a whole 65 viewers as of this video taping, and of course, it's not a lot of viewers. It is a lot to me because I did just kind of get started doing this. But if you like what you see, click subscribe. Make sure you click the little bell icon down below so you can receive notifications. And when I do upload new stuff, I try to get it out there as often as possible. So hopefully you're going to like this video. Let's get into it. So as you can see on this thing, it's missing a lot of stuff. I do have all the parts in here, so I should be able to get everything put back together. The problem with this was that, as you can see from the back side here on the neck, I was actually trying to adjust the truss rod on this at one point, and I was trying to give it a little bit of help with that, and putting a little lever and just kind of gently pushing down, and it ended up just cracking and snapping off. And I did try to end up gluing it back together. Didn't do the best job. I've had this thing for a long time. This was kind of before I really knew what I was doing. I still don't really know what I'm doing when it comes to this stuff, but I really didn't know what I was doing when I tried to glue this back on. So it really is not the best job on this. You can kind of see right here, there's just less like a half of a millimeter of separation right here between the fretboard and the neck itself. But this does not go down as far as it's supposed to. So I'm confident that I can get everything put back together on this, and I'm confident that I can get, obviously, the rest of this stuff on the neck removed. I'm probably going to remove the finish here on the side of the headstock as well, and get this all smoothed out. I'll probably just end up going with like a tongue oil or something like that, all the way up for the neck, the back of the headstock, and the sides of the headstock. That part's not the concern for me. The concern is once I get all this stuff put back together, if I am going to be able to have a low enough action to make this a good playable guitar. I've already looked down the neck. I don't know if I'll be able to, let's see if I can. You can see there the neck is fairly straight. There's just a little slight back bow, ever so slight back bow on this. So I am going to have to continue to adjust the truss rod on it in the hopes of getting it to be nice and straight and flat. If I can do that, I should be able to get this thing in playable condition. But I know one thing I'm going to have to do is the nut that I have in here does not, it fits in here. It's the original nut, but because this thing is sitting up a little bit higher than it was, the strings are low at this end. So I'm going to have to shim underneath the nut. So that's one of the things we're going to have to do. But anyway, first step on this is to actually get going with removing the rest of the finish on the neck. So why don't we go ahead and I'll get started on that. Okay, so get some of this dust off of here to start with. Because I'm going to have to, I'm going to tape this off. Because I'm going to be using obviously some paint remover to try to get the rest of this. And the thing is this this binding and all that is a plastic, I'm sure. So if I put this on this stuff, it's just going to melt it. So I'm actually going to try to tape off as much of this as I can. Same thing with the binding down here. I've already I honestly don't remember how I got this off. I don't remember if I just sanded it, which I think is what I did. I sanded it off as opposed to using remover. But down here it looks like this is kind of messed up. So I'm actually going to tape the binding itself on the neck, and I'll come back with sandpaper at the end and just get that last little bit of paint off from there. So. So I'm getting the actual black finish off, but I'm only getting down to where the sealer is down here. There's still, I mean, this right here is what was making all the mess, like right in this area and all that. It was sealer that hadn't come off yet, so. So it's working to an extent. I just don't know how little of a mess I'm going to be able to make of everything else around here. So, but you know, this was kind of a last ditch effort on this guitar anyway, because my other idea was to take all the electronics and stuff and just put them in another guitar that's just a regular acoustic guitar, and I could cut the this section out on another guitar and install it in that. But I wanted to try to save this if I could, because that's just kind of how I roll. I don't like to get rid of stuff if I can help it. But if I end up ruining this thing beyond the ability for me to do anything with it, then maybe this video will end up with me putting all the stuff into a different guitar. So, but I guess we'll find out. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have some areas I'm going to have to repair in this other finish. So this is not going to end up being a beautiful, pretty guitar when I'm done, but I'll do my best to make it look good. So. Anyway, you get the idea.
2 hours later.
All right, so I got everything sanded off of here. I actually had to break out the Dremel tool to get this last little bit out of here. But you can see, I don't know how well it's going to show up, but you can actually see the crack that, the original crack that happened with the break on this thing. But I did get everything taken off of here. I'm going to have to actually sand it down to just a little bit finer of a grit, and then once I get done with that, I should be able to put on some tongue oil. So, and that's what this is going to be, just a tongue oil on this part of it, and then the original finish on the rest. So, okay, so while the tongue oil that I put onto this thing is curing, which that is back there, it's curing right now. It's going to have to cure for probably the next 12 hours or so before I can put another coat on it. I figured I could try to test the electronics to this thing. So I've got, this is the preamp that is used in this thing. And it hooks up, what's really cool is it's got an XLR out as well. But my worry is not so much about the preamp, but it's about this, the original saddle that went into this piezo here was a saddle that was similar to this one, but it had a couple of posts that went down on either side and slid down into the bridge. And since that one is broken and is no longer usable, I'm going to have to use one of these to fit in here. The problem is that the width on this is wider than the channel in this piezo saddle. So I'm either going to have to, if this even works, I'm either going to have to shape this one to be able to fit into this, or I'm going to have to use one of these new ones and just have it set down into the bridge and just have this saddle sitting on top of it. So, but first things first, I'm going to plug this into the preamp and then switch on the amplifier, and then do that. I don't even know if this thing has a good battery in it or not. Yeah, I just changed the battery out on this thing, and now it's definitely, this thing works just fine. So, since this one actually fits into the saddle the way it's supposed to, or into the bridge the way it's supposed to, I will probably try to shape this thing, which means I'm going to have to thin it out, probably adjust the height of it as well, and get that thing to fit down into the bridge the way it's supposed to. So, okay, so I kind of wanted to show what I was doing here. That piece I just had, I fed down. There was a small hole down here that I fed the cable through, and then this thing just sets down in there, and then the cable I ended up having come out of this hole, and I plugged it into the preamp right here, and then the other piece of the preamp, which is the XLR and the 1/4-inch jack, I put in through there as such. They're both going through this case right here. I got a little better view here. They're both going through this. This is basically like a bracket that holds the preamp in. And you can see that it's got a clip right here. There's another clip that goes on the other side too. But what you do is you kind of slide this in as so. This can only go on one way because of the way the thing is shaped. It sets on like that. And then you take this clip like that. It actually sets down right in there. Boom. And then goes up in that thing. And then this whole thing comes in, slides down inside of this. Just like that. And then that actually holds the whole thing in. It keeps pushes both of the clips out to their respective sides and keeps the thing nice and tight. And now there's this thing's got a thing right here. I got to source some screws because this thing's been stored forever, and the actual screws that go down in here have been lost. But I'm pretty sure I've got some screws somewhere, just some generic ones that I can throw in there. But that's what I need to do next. And then let's see, where is it? This guy right here needs to be fed down through. Yeah, needs to be fed down through and put into the hole down here in that end. So let's lower that down that way and hope that we can catch it here. There we go. Okay. So there we go. Just like that. And then that'll just get some screws right there in the end as well, and that'll be on there. And then the electronics portion of this, once I get those screws in, the electronics portion of this should be pretty much ready to go. Okay, so I cut some pieces of veneer. I have this, I'm not sure if this is oak or, well, I don't think it's mahogany. It might be mahogany, I'm not sure, but it's what I had that was kind of close to the color, so I'm not going to really worry about it. And the thickness, I mean, this is probably a millimeter thickness or so. So I cut some pieces at the lengths that I need, and I'm going to go ahead and go glue these together and, clamp them down real good, and then I should be able to put them in here and have that give me what I need for height to get this nut where it's supposed to be. Okay, so now I am going to kind of see what I have. Oops. For this thing. Actually 1.48. That's what I'm getting right across the inside of that thing. And then the thickness of this thing is, let's see, almost twice that. This is going to take a lot of sanding. I did have just a slight back bow in this, but I loosened the truss rod nut, and now this thing is pretty straight. I'm pretty happy with that. Although I am noticing that when I'm looking down at it on the low E string side, there's just the slightest little twist at the end. And I don't know if that's because of how I glue it back together or what. And I hope that it doesn't really affect the play. Because if it does, then, well, not a lot I can do about it at this point. I just need to make this playable and that's it. So looking over here at this thing, I've already got, it's looking like it's already 1/8 of an inch up. So if I did this, just like that, let me, it's way over 1/8 of an inch, but I think if I took start by taking about 1/8 of an inch off of this thing, I can put that in there. But one thing I need to do though is I need to thin this out. I need to shave this down, the thickness of this so it'll fit down in there. So let me go try and do that. So I got everything in here and got it strung up, and as far as playability, it's really nice. The problem is that this, as you can see, as I work my way over on this thing, because I have this plugged into just a cheap little guitar amp right now to kind of test the piezo, it would appear that I have this thing shaped as such to where the bottom of this on the low E string side is making it all the way down and making contact with the piezo in here, and the rest of it is kind of sitting out on top. But you can hear, and as I kind of make it over, so it's really and it's just because of the channel with that piezo that this thing has to fit down inside. It's going to be really difficult to shape this saddle to fit down in there properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to utilize one of these new piezos in here and make it so that it's just going to be just a flat. All I have to do is just adjust the height of the saddle itself, and not actually have to, shave it and thin it out and all that. Let me get these strings loosened up, see if I can get this thing out of here, see if I can get everything out of there. I may end up having to put a whole new set of strings on it. I may have just, lost a set of strings even though they're brand new. And let me see if I can get this thing to sit right in here. So I'll do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so as it turned out, I wasn't actually able to get this other piezo to work with this preamp. I don't know if it's for some reason it's wired squirrely or if these just don't work at all, but I wasn't getting any output at all when I had these things plugged into this thing. So I ended up having to get this one put back in, the one that came with it put back in, and I just went back at a new one of these saddles and got it the right height first, and then I just took my time and was really careful with it and got it to where now it sits down in there, and now all the strings are now going through, and it's got response all the way through the whole piezo. So it actually sounds pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. The action is nice and low, so it's going to be nice and playable. Again, I can say there's mistakes I made, little places where, somebody's calling me, little places where I made errors in trying to get the black filled in. I've got little, gouges and things like that. But, like I said, this thing was always just meant to be a player. That's all it was meant to be, was just to be able to get out and use something to, it's a workhorse. That's all there is to it. So I'm not really concerned with having it be beautiful and, perfect. I mean, I think it still looks pretty good. I mean, from the stage, nobody's ever going to be able to tell that there was anything wrong with this thing. And it's actually a pretty nice looking guitar. So I'm happy with it. Hopefully my son will be happy with it. He's going to play it for the first time tomorrow. But I think he will be. pretty happy with it. So that's going to call it, we're going to call that one a success, I think. And that's going to do it for this video. So I want to thank you guys for watching. Again, please make sure you click subscribe if you liked what you see or what you saw. Leave any comments you want for me below. Click the thumbs up, do all that good stuff. And we will see you next time on Dave Tries to Fix Stuff. Thanks again for watching.